A maritime power arose in the beating heart of the ancient Mediterranean, rivaling the greatest civilizations of its time, the Carthaginians. Hailing from mysterious Phoenicia, these seafaring masters established Carthage, a prosperous city on the North African coast. With unparalleled naval skills, trade networks spanning seas and continents, and an insatiable hunger for expansion, the Carthaginians excelled in their epic rivalry against the rising might of Rome. The Carthaginians originated in Phoenicia, a Levantine region that largely covers modern Lebanon and parts of Syria and Israel. The Phoenicians were renowned for their navigational skills, establishing several colonies along the Mediterranean coasts. Carthage, meaning new city in Phoenician, was founded at the end of the 9th century BC by Phoenician settlers. The city of Tyre, a major Phoenician city-state, is often pointed to as the starting point for the founding fathers of Carthage. The legend of Dido, also known as Elissa in Phoenician tradition, is rooted deeply in the founding stories of Carthage and in the classical narratives of antiquity. The tale of Dido combines myth, legend, and possibly some historical truth. Originally, Dido was a Phoenician princess from Tyre. Following her father's death, the king of Tyre, her brother Pygmalion took over the leadership. Some versions of the legend say that Pygmalion had Dido's husband killed for greedy or jealous reasons. Dido fled Tyre with a few loyal followers to avoid her brother's machinations. She landed on the coast of North Africa, trying to buy some habitable land from a local ruler. To be clever, the ruler told her that she could only have as much land as she could cover with a piece of leather. Proving her wit, Dido cut the leather into extremely thin strips and arranged them in a circle, outlining a sizable area, where she founded Carthage. Dido's legend is also known for its connection with Aeneas, the Trojan hero. According to the Aeneid, the epic by the Roman poet Virgil, Aeneas and his followers roamed the Mediterranean after the fall of Troy. While traveling, he arrived in Carthage, where he was warmly welcomed by Dido. The two quickly fell in love. Yet Aeneas was told by divine messengers of his destiny to establish the city that would become Rome. He reluctantly left Dido and set off for the Italian peninsula. Shattered by Aeneas's departure, Dido erected a funeral pyre, proclaiming that she was joining her first husband, who had already died a few years before Aeneas's arrival. Dido then drove a dagger into her own body and threw herself onto the burning pyre, whereupon she perished in the flames. The Aeneid was originally penned to legitimize Rome's divine ancestry and its connection to the ancient heroes and gods. The tragic love story between Dido and Aeneas was used to stress the unavoidable nature of the conflicts between Rome and Carthage, both cities with similar origins but fated to wage decades of bloody wars. As the influence of Phoenician cities in the Levant region started to decline due to invasions and the growing influence of empires such as the Assyrian and Babylonian, Carthage prospered and rose as the main heir to the Phoenician heritage, evolving from a simple colony to a powerful empire. Profiting from their strategic location and their seafaring prowess inherited from the Phoenicians, the Carthaginians established an extensive web of colonies and trading posts along the Mediterranean coasts. These colonies, comprising sites in Sicily, Sardinia, and the Balearic Islands, and the coast of present-day Spain, acted as trade and production centers, as well as naval bases. Carthage boasted one of the most impressive fleets in the ancient world. Not only did this enable them to protect their trade routes from pirates and rivals, but they also enforced control over key trade routes, levying shipping fees on other powerful cities, such as Rome, Athens, and Alexandria. The Carthaginians traded a wide gamut of goods. They imported cereals, especially from Sicily, metals like tin from Iberia and Cornwall, and silver from Spain, but also exotic products from Africa, such as ivory and precious stones. Carthage was also famous for the Phoenician purple dye, extracted from a specific type of sea snail, which was highly regarded in ancient times. Mago, a Carthaginian general and leader and member of the important Maganid dynasty, authored a 28-volume treatise on agriculture. Mago's agricultural work, although lost, was highly regarded in antiquity. It was translated into Latin and influenced Roman agricultural philosophy. The Punic alphabet, a variation of the Phoenician alphabet, came into use in Carthage and its colonies. Whilst the Punic language itself eventually died out, the alphabet made an impact on the development of other writing systems. Carthage was one of the first Western Mediterranean city-states to mint its own currency, which made trade and economic integration easier between its different colonies and territories. Trade was not just about goods. There was a continuous cultural exchange. Agricultural techniques, crafts, and technological developments were also spread through Carthage's trade routes. The Carthaginian religion, anchored in Phoenician traditions and customs, was a crucial part of daily life and Carthage's cultural identity. While much of what is known about Carthaginian religion is drawn from external sources, especially Roman and Greek, which frequently viewed Carthage through hostile or exotic perspectives, it is still possible to pinpoint core elements of this religious practice. As with their Phoenician predecessors, the Carthaginians adored a range of deities. The main were Baal Haman, often associated with fertility and agriculture, and Tanit, a goddess of the moon, fertility, and in certain contexts, a funerary figure. Tanit became particularly prominent in Carthage and is often represented by a specific symbol that bears a resemblance to a female figure with her arms raised. Temples were hubs of religious activity, and many were found in Carthage and other Carthaginian colonies. Offerings, frequently of an agricultural nature, were common. Archaeological and written evidence of animal sacrifices also exists. Some sources, especially classic Roman and Greek authors, affirm that the Carthaginians practiced human sacrifices to honor their deities. Studies of recent archaeological evidence have suggested that, while cremation rituals were common, the extent and context of human sacrifice are still up for debate. While some argue that it was a ritualized practice during times of crisis, others imply that it may have been less common than ancient sources imply. The Carthaginians did believe in an afterlife. Exquisite burial tombs and funerary offerings hint at a conviction that the dead would need material goods in the afterlife, such as clothing, jewelry, weapons, and personal items. As far as Carthage interacted with other cultures, there was a certain level of religious syncretism. Carthaginian deities were often identified with gods from other traditions, such as Greek or Egyptian. Carthage's territorial and naval growth led to conflicts with other Mediterranean powers. The most famous of these were the Punic Wars against Rome, which lasted from 264 to 146 BC. These clashes were key to the course of ancient history, as they established Rome's primacy in the Western Mediterranean and led to the complete destruction of Carthage. The First Punic War occurred between 264 and 241 BC. The primary cause of this war was the scramble for control of Sicily, particularly the cities of Messina and Syracuse. It was mostly a naval war, with some land battles in Sicily. Carthage, with its powerful navy, had the upper hand initially, but Rome quickly adjusted to naval warfare and introduced the corvus, a kind of mobile pontoon bridge to board and capture enemy ships. The war ended in victory for Rome. Under the Treaty of Lutatius, Carthage was forced to abandon Sicily and pay a large indemnity to Rome. The Second Punic War took place between 218 and 201 BC. The origins of this conflict can be traced to Carthage's ambitions in the Iberian Peninsula and the famous Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca, who defied Roman rule. This war is remarkable for Hannibal's audacious crossing of the Alps to attack Italy itself. Hannibal went on to secure several decisive battles on Italian soil, such as the Battle of Trebia, the Battle of Lake Trasimene, and the Battle of Cannae. Nevertheless, Rome pursued a scorched earth strategy and prevented a decisive battle until they were ready. The final showdown took place at Zama, near Carthage, where the Roman general Scipio Africanus defeated Hannibal. Carthage was soundly defeated, forfeiting its territories in Spain and paying a huge indemnity. Despite his initial series of victories, Hannibal was eventually overwhelmed by Roman resilience and strategy. The Third Punic War, between 149 and 146 BC, was the last large-scale military conflict between Carthage and Rome. While Carthage had been severely weakened after the Second Punic War, Rome still perceived it as a threat, mainly due to its economic recovery. After a drawn-out and brutal siege, Carthage was overrun and sacked by the Romans. It was utterly destroyed, with many of its inhabitants killed or sold into slavery. Legend has it that the Romans threw large amounts of salt on Carthage's farmland to make sure nothing would grow there again. The Punic Wars signaled the rise of Rome as the dominant Mediterranean superpower. The annihilation of Carthage wiped out a key rival, and the territories and wealth that Rome gained nurtured its growth and expansion in the centuries that followed. Carthage was one of the strongest and most influential city-states of antiquity. Its legacy, while often overshadowed by the Roman domination that followed it, still stands as a reminder of the beautiful tapestry of civilizations that shaped the Mediterranean's history.